People had high hopes for 2025, but here we are on day 9, and we're already like 5 catastrophes in. As Southern California continues to be ravaged by fires, a resurfaced clip from Joe Rogan predicting this particular calamity is resurfacing. Watch.
I was filming Fear Factor. I talked to this guy who was a fire guy for the fire department. He said, it's just going to be a matter of time. There's going to be one day where a fire hits LA and the wind is the right way and we're not going to be able to stop it. It's just going to burn right through to the ocean. He goes, it's just a matter of time. We all know it. I was like, what the dude? I go, the whole city? He goes, the whole city. He goes, when those big fires get going, there's not a damn thing. Like when a friend was trying to sell a house in California, and it turned out it was $125,000 a year just to get fire insurance. Yeah. Like what?
But here's the thing that's actually interesting about this clip. Joe Rogan isn't a fortune teller. He didn't predict the next conspiracy. He literally says in the clip that a firefighter told him this would happen when he was working on Fear Factor, which ended in 2006. So why this clip is significant is not because Rogan had some uncanny ability to look into 2025 or like some secret information that others lacked, but because he's plainly stating the obvious, which everyone knew was a risk, right? Everyone's known this for a very long time, and yet the people in power didn't take the actions necessary to prevent or address it. That's the story. First, I'm Hannah Cox with Base Politics. Welcome to my channel where I bring you my politically homeless takes on politics and culture. Before we jump in today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and of course, ring the notification bell so you never miss one of my episodes. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I have been absolutely transfixed by videos like this on my timeline over the past couple of days. I have not been able to look away. It's obviously like seeing a car crash. I mean, just watching how fast these fires have spread. I know probably a lot of you are in the same boat as me, where you have friends and loved ones in California who are in the pathway of these fires. So it's been very concerning for them. And just sort of, there's just this feeling of helplessness, you know, where there's obviously not much we can do, especially from far away, but it just seems like there's not much anybody can do, even on the ground. The firefighters are completely outmatched. I mean, these videos, they look like a war zone. I was talking to my mom a few days ago and I was really surprised. She said that she hasn't seen hardly anything about this on the mainstream media. Like they've not been covering it. I think that probably is picked up now, but I just wanted to roll some footage from what I've been seeing in case any of you are in that boat. I know information is often siloed these days and people often don't pay as much attention when something's happening that's not like in their backyard. I lived through a natural disaster in Nashville a number of years ago, back in like 2012. And I remember it just completely stopped our world. And it was so weird to feel like the rest of the world just kept moving on, that hardly anybody was paying attention to it, or maybe like it got a little bit of news coverage for a few days and then people just move on and locals are left to clean up the wreckage. And it's a very isolating and weird sort of feeling. I mean, this looks like a war zone. And these are areas of California that I'm familiar with. I've really been very fortunate to spend a lot of time in California over the years, particularly back when I worked in the music industry. I would go out to LA for work a lot, but even during my time in politics, I've frequently traveled there and I love California. I know a lot of right wingers like to dunk on it because it's so left wing. And obviously, like, I would not want to live in California because of their policies. I've said for a while, I cannot believe we let the commies take our most beautiful state. Like, I really think we need to go fight and take it back somehow because it's just absolutely stunning. I actually really like the people of California when I'm there too. It's so weird. Every time I go to California and I'm talking to normal people, like my bartenders or my Uber drivers, you know, just people I encounter, like they're not that left wing. They're actually pretty independent, pretty moderate. It's been really interesting. And so I don't have the animosity for people in California that a lot of folks in my camp do. I'm pretty devastated by it. I personally would love to live in California one day if they ever do get their act together. And actually, my husband and I, while we've already gotten married, are planning to do a ceremony probably in the Santa Ynez Wine Valley later this year, which is just my favorite place on earth. It's like a little slice of heaven. So this breaks my heart because these are beautiful areas and I just, it's awful anytime this happens anywhere, but particularly somewhere that's like close to your heart. And while I know some people have been mocking those who are losing their homes right now because they are really rich or because they're super left wing, like I think that's insane. I can't fathom that, what kind of greed and envy must possess you in order to have that kind of reaction and feeling when somebody else loses their home. I don't care how much money you have. That is a traumatic event. And there are many things that people have in their homes that simply cannot be replaced. I saw this video from a well-known comedian and it's just devastating. Watch this.
So I am evacuating my home, and it's so hard to leave the podcast studio behind. I know that's like sounds insane, but I have everything, like my son's birth certificate, and but just to leave all this, like, podcast studio is such a big deal to me because like it connected me to so many of you guys, and just to give you an idea, like this is the podcast studio, and then I don't know if you can see. So it's pretty close, I don't know what I'm gonna lose, but it's like weirdly, like you really find out what matters to you when you have to evacuate. I'm not taking the cameras. I'm just like taking little trinkets and like stuff that you guys gave me at shows, and
It's just so heartbreaking. It really has been a reminder for me, and I'm sure for many of you as well, about just to remember what's actually important. I have been harping on and on about getting a new couch to my husband, and like, just I've really had it out for the couch that we have. Like, I just am over it. I'm like, I want to burn that couch. I'm so sick of it. I want a new couch. And actually, my husband, who's amazing, like ordered one of those little devices, where you can like, it's like a little razor and it like gets all the like little pieces of cloth. I don't even know what I'm trying to describe right now, but the couch looks way better. Like, he did this amazing job actually like refurbishing the couch. And I was looking at it today and I was just thinking, how silly. Like, that couch is fine, and it could be gone tomorrow. It could be burned up tomorrow. Like, these things are not what matters. Your material possessions are not what matters. And it just reminded me to be thankful for what I have and to really not put too much stock into things and to really start to value experiences and just the people around you more. And I'm sure a lot of people are having these kind of same reactions to this, but I don't know. I felt very convicted watching a lot of these videos. And honestly, this is just the half of it. I can't even fully like summarize the tragedies that I'm seeing. It's awful. People are literally leaving their pets, which this just really gut punched me. I saw an article in the New York Post that says heroic veterinarian takes in 41 animals as owners flee apocalyptic fire. And man, this really like kneecapped me because at first I was furious. I was like, what do you mean you left your pet? And then I realized like probably they couldn't get back to their pets. Probably the fires took place so fast that they couldn't get back to where their pets were to save them. And that's just, I can't fathom anything worse happening to me. Like, I would walk through fire to save Phoenix. I mean, no, they would have to restrain me to keep me from getting him. And just the thought of not being able to get to your pet or save them or know if they're okay or know where they are, like, it turns my stomach. And not to mention all the little forest animals that have nowhere to go and are trying to escape, and they must be so scared. And like, obviously the loss of human life is awful. There's been 5 people who've lost their lives, and that is equally terrible. But I'm just always thinking about the defenseless in these kinds of situations, and it really gets me. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people, and there already have been, who say that we should not politicize this, that we should stay on the sidelines, that now is not the time to comment on this. And I just think that's absolutely wrong. I think that people should be angry, particularly people in California. I think that we should be pointing fingers. And I also think that we should be educating people so that this kind of thing does not keep happening. As this person on Twitter said, now is the time to have this conversation, not 2 months or years from now when the news media will have moved on to other things. People are looking at it now, assess the damage, and blame in real time so folks remember and can take action. And I can't help but notice that people saying that we shouldn't be like playing politics, we shouldn't be assigning blame, happen to be particularly people who are in the camp that is to blame, which is the left in this situation. Okay. Like, unequivocally, you guys know that I am politically homeless. I will call a spade a spade. I don't like either side of the political spectrum, at least not all the time. But in this case, it is pretty black and white. And what's interesting is the same people saying that we shouldn't be playing politics or assigning blame because they don't want fingers pointed at their camp are also the same people out pushing a lot of misinformation and trying to blame capitalism for this disaster, or blaming climate change, or blaming corporate greed, all of which can easily be debunked. So no, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about who's responsible, and we're going to talk about what policies are culpable here. First, I've seen a lot of people in the anti-capitalism / corporations are all greedy and evil camp talking about how many of these people don't have fire insurance. Here's one example.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old. And through the state of California, because of this, they're 90 years old, that they've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So thank you, California insurance companies, supporting residents who pay taxes and love California. And they wonder why people leave California.
Now, I know this pulls on a lot of people's heartstrings, and it's very easy to say, like, oh, those mean corporations, they wouldn't keep offering insurance and they pulled out, and this isn't fair to people. But really, if you dig into it, it was progressive California policies that pushed the insurance companies out because they refuse to accept economic realities. They're like children. Progressives on economics are literally children, and they are going to have to grow up. This is not something where we're just guessing, where we just don't quite know how these things will pan out. This is a science. We know how certain things impact other things, and price caps are one of the things that we know better than anything else. This has been studied and studied and studied. It's been tried, and it has failed over and over and over because, as you know, if you watch this channel, government cannot centrally plan price. Price is a signal. That signal sends out a message of scarcity that then incentivizes people to supply more of something. When you try to skew that price signal, and when you try to hamstring that price and hold it to an artificially low rate, that signal doesn't go out. The suppliers don't rev up production. They don't come to answer the call. And so you are left with shortages, or you are left with nothing at all. And that is what has happened with insurance in California. Laura Powell on Twitter said last year State Farm canceled 1,600 policies in this area because the state would not allow them to raise premiums enough to cover their exposure. The affected homeowners would then likely have to rely on the state-run FAIR Plan, an expensive last resort insurance program. But the FAIR Plan reportedly only had a surplus of $200 million as of April 2024 and was likely to become insolvent if a catastrophic event occurred. Governor Newsom goes around posturing about politics instead of trying to solve urgent problems. Our state government takes billions of dollars from hardworking Californians and provides barely anything in return, an unconscionable failure. So it is the government's fault that these people do not have insurance. If you choose to live in a high-risk area, then you have to accept the fact that you are going to pay a pretty penny for insurance. There is no workaround for that. There is no reason that any company should have to provide you insurance, particularly when you choose to put yourself in a situation where you're most likely going to need it at some point or another. And if they choose to still offer you that insurance, it is well within their rights to charge a very hefty price for that. If you remove their ability to do so, then the business model doesn't make sense and they leave. Do you see why I say these people are childish? This isn't hard to understand. This isn't hard to predict. But progressives think that you can just keep bending reality, that you can just ignore the facts at hand and things will work out. And the thing is, they never do. They just come collapsing on their heads. And the sad fact is there are a lot of Californians in this camp. They are delusional and they are radical. And their version of addressing climate change will send people back to the Stone Ages, as it is in the process of doing right now in California. I saw this person on Twitter. It almost reads like satire. They said, "Dear rich tech bros, you can have water for your data centers or you can have it to save your homes, but you cannot have both. Your choices are killing us and you." And as you can see, this actually got community noted because it turns out most of the data centers are not even located in California and are not a significant driver of water usage. But the fact is that in the vast majority of states, you wouldn't have this premise hanging over the doers' heads, the innovators' heads. Most states can figure out how to provide both. It is because of California's policies that they don't have enough water, that they don't have enough energy, and that they have not taken the steps they need to take in order to prevent fires like this. It is California policies that have allowed this to happen. And I want to be quite clear. I am not an anti-climate change person whatsoever. I think that climate change is real. I think it's something that we do need to focus on. But I also think that the left's socialist Trojan horse plan for addressing it is suicidal. There are actual solutions to climate change that could work, that are free market solutions, and that would not devastate our quality of life. But that is not what the left is proposing, and that is not what has been put on the books in California. The policies in California are meant to redistribute wealth. They are not based in science, and they have completely decimated the quality of life right now for a fictitious belief, hope that they can stop climate change with them in the future, which again is not even backed up by the facts. This guy, Bill Asaley, I think is how you would say his name. He is a state representative in California, and he put out an excellent thread addressing just what those policies look like and how they pertain to this disaster. He said, for everyone saying this is not a time for blame, this is exactly the moment that the people who've been responsible for the mismanagement of California's fire policies be held accountable. Our governor has been obsessed with holding a special session to Trump-proof California when he should have been focused on fireproofing our communities. Here are a few hard facts about the Democrat-run state's failures to address fire prevention. In the 1950s, the average timber harvest in California was around 6 billion board feet per year. Today, that number has dropped to 1.5 billion board feet per year. California's forests, which cover a third of the state, are now choked with nearly 163 million dead trees. The California Environmental Quality Act and other regulatory policies limit the ability of local government and fire management services to clear dead trees and vegetation. This is a big deal and prevents much of the controlled burns we desperately need. Multiple bills, including AB 2330, AB 1951, and AB 2639, were rejected by the Democrat-controlled legislature or vetoed by the governor that would have exempted wildfire prevention projects from the California Environmental Quality Act and other permitting issues. He goes on to say California has prioritized suppression-only strategies and failed to remove accumulated vegetation, leading to denser forests with increased fuel loads. Our forests have become tinderboxes, leading to devastating outcomes when a fire starts. Other legislation would have provided exemptions for utility undergrounding projects as power lines that are not adequately cleared of debris present major wildfire risk. These bills also failed to reach the governor's desk. Bottom line, he says, many of the wildfires California experienced could have been prevented or significantly mitigated with better management policies and funding. This is a time for accountability and, more importantly, change in how we approach fire policies. Many of the rejected proposals were brought by Republicans, and I suspect they were rejected for that reason. There is only one political party to blame for California's failures. So is climate change playing a part in this? I mean, perhaps you are having a pretty dry year in California so far. I'm not sure that it is, off the scales compared to years past. The problem is that they are not doing the mitigation strategies that they need to be performing in order to ensure that their cities are not becoming matchboxes. We don't know what started these fires yet. It could have been arson. It could have been a homeless person with fire to keep warm. It could have been somebody putting out a cigarette. For all we know, we will find out. But it doesn't matter because the city is flammable. It is just waiting for any little thing to tick it off. And it just happened. It happened at the wrong place, wrong time. The winds were really strong. That is a significant event happening right now. And you just got a perfect disaster. And it's going to cost billions of dollars to fix this. Billions of dollars that you can feel certain California is going to come knocking on all of our doors to send their way. And I saw some people discussing this online. Somebody said the swift devastation of the fires is horrible. And then it dawns on you that Trump, set to take office in 13 days, has threatened publicly to cut wildfire aid to the state. Another person said Trump said the federal government should not be paying emergency wildfire aid while California is refusing to do controlled burns and clean up forests in the name of environmentalism. And I have to agree. Like I said, this breaks my heart for Californians. This breaks my heart for all of the innocent people who don't agree with these policies. They're just totally outnumbered in that state by Looney Tunes. But at the end of the day, The rest of the country cannot be expected to keep coming in and cleaning up after these ridiculous ideas. The consequences of these beliefs are very expensive. They're very devastating. But honestly, at some point, people have to be forced to live with the consequences of their actions and their bad beliefs in order to get them to change. We cannot bankroll this kind of ludicrous mentality. Californians and leftists in general have got to wake up and grow up. And a lot of them have. You know, California's been bleeding people for the past couple of years. And it's frankly awful watching the people who are still there having to learn these hard lessons. And again, there are many victims in this state who don't align with these policies but have to live under them just the same. But you cannot sacrifice the quality of life of people who are here today to achieve utopia in the future. Climate concerns have got to be balanced with practical ones. And the balance of that is so far off the mark in California that these ideas are literally burning the place to the ground. So my thoughts and prayers are with the people of California, not only as they deal with this disaster, but as they are left to deal with their disaster of a government and the policies that are currently in place. And I'm rooting for them. I want to see California rise again. I want to live there one day, guys. I want to be able to come join you in retirement or, you know, sometime in the future. I love it. I love that state. But man, something has to give. This cannot continue. This cannot continue, and it's not going to continue. It's going to end one way or another. And I just hope that it ends with people waking up and fighting back. Quick housekeeping, I am taking the day off because the South is shutting down tomorrow. We are getting snow. That's right. We haven't had snow in at least the past 3 years down here. So we're very excited. And also we really can't leave our house or do anything when it snows because we don't know how to drive in it. So I am taking the day off to hang out with my stepkids and my dog and my husband. We have been wanting a snow day for forever because Phoenix has never seen snow and he is a snow dog. Phoenix, come here. In case you don't know what Phoenix looks like, this is my Phoenix and we are dying to see him in snow. I think he's going to love it. I also think he's going to blend in. It's going to be so cute. So we're taking the day off to hang out in the snow tomorrow. I'll see you Monday.